Hello, and welcome to the Journey of Grief, Becoming Us Without Them. I'm Barbara Field, licensed marriage and family therapist. I started this channel to create a place where people could learn about grief and talk about their own grief. And so today I've invited some great people to be with us so we can learn even more about grief. So I'd like to invite each of you to introduce yourself and say a little more about your work as it relates to grief. And let's start with Karen.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Hi. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. I'm honored to be a part of this panel today. My name is Karen Penfold, and I live in the Sacramento area of California. And my training is in trauma-informed yoga, trauma-informed meditation, somatic trauma recovery, and I'm also a certified grief educator through David Kessler's grief education course. And what I do is I work with women, I say from ages 19 to 79, who are determined to transform their life and their legacies from living in a life of survival and a state of survival stress, or in that freeze state, that true trauma state of freeze. And we know that grievers have a lot of anxiety and stress, and grief affects not just our mind and not just our heart, but our body, and our whole nervous system responds to the loss, to the grief and the pain. And so what I do is I use somatic practices to help women learn how to regulate their nervous systems so they can spend more time in that place of connection and freedom, so that they can live life fully living, fully feeling. And that's the topic I'm going to get into. And what I've noticed is that essentially women all come to me for the same reason. They're looking for relief, whether it's, the trauma is traumatic grief or some other trauma. But if we're going to even look at, traumatic grievers, they're all coming looking for relief from something. And it's from anxiety, depression, overwhelm, the chronic illnesses, chronic pains. I call it the chronics. And so what I do is we do the nervous system. We learn coping strategies through nervous system regulation, because we need that to adapt in this life of pain and suffering. But that's not the healing work. The healing work is what I'm going to talk about, and that is having the capacity of finding that felt sense of safety in the body, to feel safe to feel, so that we can feel in the present what was too overwhelming to feel in the past, so we can process in the present that was too overwhelming to process in the past. That's the healing work, I believe, in my role of trauma recovery with grievers.
Sounds wonderful. It's a great calling. How about you, Jeanine?
Barbara, thank you again. I love everything about what you're putting out there for people to access information and all different levels of information. I just think it's amazing, because I think there's a place for everybody to feel seen and resonate with some type of information that's given. So thank you. I am Jeanine Desrosiers. I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist. I'm the owner of Essential Key Hypnotherapy. I have an office in Folsom and an office in Granite Bay, California. I have a lot of virtual clients as well, some people I've never met in real life. And I feel like a majority of my virtual clients are because of grief. And one of the things that I kind of want to talk about today is like the hidden griefs, the people that it doesn't feel validated out in the world, right? The loss of identity after medical procedures or something traumatic in our lives, where we learn different coping. We don't talk about, the grief we felt of who we were before. Pet grief, people always like, it's just a dog, like that kind of stuff. But there's stuff like miscarriages, relationships, stuff like that people don't always share out loud, but people do stuff all that stuff down deep inside, and our minds and our emotions can only hold so much, and it does show up in our bodies and in our nervous systems. So I really love helping create a safe place for people to not necessarily dig up the pain of the grief, but creating space to be seen and honor still what happened and learn to, in a healthy way, process those emotions and not get over it. So thank you.
That's wonderful. That's really important work. Chelsea, tell us about you.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara and Karen and Jeanine.
Huh?
Is that right? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Chelsea Rappel, just showing my awkwardness to the world. Hello. Yeah, it's so good to be in this space. I was just tracking my own nervous system, starting to downshift as I was listening to you all share the language of the nervous system and the body connection. And so, Barbara, thank you for making a space for the somatic conversation. And yeah, again, my name is Chelsea Rappel, and I am a somatic experiencing practitioner, and I'm a yoga therapist. And I'm also really, first and foremost, a recovering person. I've recovered from my own addictions of many kinds, including just growing up in a generational line and lineage of addiction and traumatic stress. And so I'm my number one client and student always. And that being said, I work primarily with folks who are on that sobriety recovery journey. I work with individuals, I work with groups, I offer public groups in the San Francisco Bay Area and online for anyone on a recovery journey that wants to start incorporating their body, their long lost body, and recover that relationship. And I also work for a lot of different organizations and provide trainings to clinicians on this sort of interconnection of addiction and trauma, and not, as Dr. Gabor Mate said, trauma not being in the event, trauma not being in what happened to us, but what happened inside of us as a result, that dysregulation, that sense, as so many of you have already mentioned, of like just not feeling okay inside. And I love speaking to the unspoken grief, as Jeanine was mentioning, of being an addict and what that means and the stigma that carries. And when we recognize that relationship to whether it's the substance or the behavior or the alcohol or the food, that relationship is actually toxic. It's a not supportive relationship. And yet the loss of that relationship and whatever safety and comfort that relationship supported is a letting go, is a grief. And I think that's a hugely unspoken piece. And as we, of course, become who we are meant to become, as my teacher Lael would say, our life's joyful purpose, there's a grieving process. And there's a lot of parts of ourselves, as I'm sure we'll get into, that didn't know that safety, that didn't know that attunement, that is worthy of grieving. So yeah, I think that covers it for now. I'm sure we'll get into more, but thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Wow, thank you. I just feel like I'm here among the voices of wisdom. This is so cool. So I asked each one of you to give me a topic for today that you would particularly like to talk about. And I will start with Karen. And Karen sent me this. Grievers can live fully again. To grieve fully is to live fully, and to live fully is to feel fully. So why the somatic work of feeling safe to feel is vital for grievers living fully again.
Yeah.
Try that fast 5 times. So can you get us started? It sounds like we all live in that world.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. The message is that grievers can live fully again. And in order, David Kessler says that we need to live fully, we need to grieve fully. And to grieve fully and live fully, I say, as you know, we need to feel fully, right? We need to be able to have that sense of safety inside to feel again. Because if you're numb to this pain and the suffering, you're going to be numb to the joy and the goodness too. So what I really like, excuse me, to do is start with an example, a discovery from one of my clients. And I share this with her permission, and there's nothing confidential. But I was working with this dear woman who was in excruciating pain of grief over losing her adult son to murder. And I led her through a very gentle and embodied yoga somatic practice with this embodied message just like enveloped into it. And this is the message, that you get to notice what you notice and feel what you feel without judgment, comparison, or analyzing. You get to notice what you notice and feel what you feel. And so I led her through just a somatic session of a few yoga postures, gentle rhythmic motions, a lot of heart opening, chest opening, a lot of like this feeling strength in your body, stability in your body, feeling choice, experiencing choice in your body. So important. And when we were done, I'll never forget what she said to me. She said, it was a relief to feel something other than pain. It was a relief to feel like anything other than this pain. And she said, now I know I can feel something other than this pain, other than pain. And to me, this illustrates the profound work of incorporating somatic work into one's grief and loss healing journey. I can stop there, or I'll keep. So I incorporate yoga as a somatic practice to do the hard and crucial work of feeling safe to feel in the body, right? To connect back. It may be for the first time, because we all know we're experiencing this grief in the present. We have our present traumatic stress, but we've got our past and these past griefs and these past traumas and these past wounds, right? So it may be connecting for the first time, especially if we have complex childhood trauma, to being safe to actually have sensation in the body. So we want to be able to do something like just feel. Can you feel your feet on the floor? Feel the chair supporting your body. Feel that you can hold your arms up in Warrior Two. And when they get tired, when you feel fatigued, let them come down. Give them an embodied experience of these, I call them trauma recovery messages. And David Kessler says that, I learned this in his certification course, is that there are 6 needs of the grieving. And these aren't like the 6 steps, or then he'll say, I'm sure grieving isn't steps and linear and, check marks. But he talks about the 6 needs of the grieving: to have your pain witnessed, to express your feelings, to release the burden of guilt, to be free of old wounds, to integrate the pain and the loss, and to find meaning in life after loss. Wow. And I believe that these needs, that perhaps in order to experience these needs, we need to have a somatic experience of them, right? Not just knowing it in our mind, not just believing it in our heart, but feeling it in our body. And so
Okay.
that's where the somatic experience of feeling safe to feel comes in. And that's how we live fully again, is by being able to find that even that tiny little bit of okayness, of goodness in the body, and feel something else other than the pain. Maybe it's just the sensation of your lips touching each other. So that's a place to start, so that our nervous system learns that it's safe to feel, that it won't get overwhelmed if we go into feeling.
That's perfect, Karen. Thank you. So Jeanine, your response to that idea of living fully, restoring all the layers, all the versions, all the parts.
All the layers, all of it.
Mhm.
I love the theme that we're all trying to find that safety, right? Safety to feel, safety to not feel, whatever that is, right? And I feel like most of us were taught at a very young age to not feel, right? To stuff it down. I'll give you something to cry about. There's nothing wrong with you. Suck it up, buttercup, whatever, right? So we're taught at a young age to stuff those things down. So why wouldn't we naturally stuff down really heavy emotions like grief, and especially the hidden ones? Maybe the stuff that feels shameful, kind of like Chelsea was saying, like the addictions, the whys, what's the emotional attachment to those, right? I can go on my own thing about kind of like addictions, but there's always an emotional attachment to something, right? There's a secondary gain for that thing. And so it doesn't make anybody a bad person or anything. It's just a coping mechanism that somebody created to feel safe. Ultimately, is it really healthy? Probably not. So we need to unlearn those coping mechanisms that we learned at a young age and start to learn new ones. And I do feel like all of that kind of shameful, embarrassed, the world doesn't validate my grief kind of feelings, whatever those are. We were taught young to stuff them down, so we keep stuffing them down. We have all that stuff stuffed down in there, and we don't even know how to allow ourselves to grieve, to validate it ourselves. Like, wait a minute, actually, this is real grief for me. You know, it kind of doesn't matter to everybody else, but we don't know how to allow ourselves to have that. I'm going to give my little rewind on hypnotherapy and just why I personally love it. In the state of hypnosis, right? Our mind is between being awake and being asleep. So we're totally in control. We can think, we can feel, we can move, all of that. I bring my clients a little bit deeper into that state. So they're not out of it. I'm not changing thoughts, stealing thoughts, anything like that. But it's allowing their mind to relax enough to let the subconscious stuff out. And that can be the grief, the blocks and obstacles that are not allowing us to find a safe place, right? So I can recognize when somebody comes in and there's the overwhelm of all of the emotions. They don't know how to label it, express it, anything. That's fine. Let's just get you into balance, right? Oh, my back hurts. I don't know if I can sit in a chair right. My leg's been hurting. My hand's been kind of numb. I have these really bad headaches. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's okay. Like, let me get you comfortable in the chair, and here's a blanket, and do the things. I have a few techniques to help people kind of get out of their own way, to again, not dig up the pain and the grief, but to create space for them to acknowledge it and find that safe place to process whatever it is that needs to be processed, right? And not only were we taught to perfect jamming it all down and criticize ourselves, but we were taught to put on the show. It's fine, it's okay, I don't need help. And we live in that survival mode. We're hanging on by the tips of our fingers. And if someone says, God, just relax, you're like, are you kidding? That makes me grip on tighter. How would I relax? I always like to tell people, I'm not going to tell you ever to let go. I'm just going to help you start to loosen your grip a little bit. and start to know that that fearful feeling in your body and your nervous system, whatever that is, like, yeah, to just let go. How frightening. I don't want to, if someone just told me to do it. So it's really creating a safe place in their minds that creates safety in their body. And then they can start to be more aware of what is a symptom or a feeling or what is truly them, because we also own, I have anxiety, I have sadness, I am a mess, but it's like, but what if you're experiencing sadness, you're experiencing anxiety, and you're experiencing a messy time in your life instead of owning those? And so that's what I'd like to help people really like, sometimes I'll call it the janky jacket, like take that janky jacket off. Like, you don't have to own that. That's not yours to own. You're just experiencing something. And I can go on a tangent about that, but I do love, and we have the common theme of really helping people gently finding the safe place in their body and then learning what to do next with it in a slower process, not just shaking them or the exorcism or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, thank you.
Great description. Thank you. Okay, Chelsea, living fully.
Yeah, I'm just like sitting with what I've heard, and the theme I keep hearing us repeat is the safety piece. And I guess I just feel like speaking to that, especially at that level where we're really working to bring people, which is that it is okay to be here. And the gripping, I was just relating to the grippy, you said, Jeanine, of like, can you just let go? How terrifying. And I work with so many different folks with so many different strategies of holding on. And what's really tough, I think, about, I don't know, what I've experienced, what other people I work with experience, is that a lot of times when it comes to addiction, we really do kind of have to just let it go. Of course, there's a detox period, and not everybody chooses abstinence. Some people choose more the harm reduction model. And sometimes it is just like a being thrown into the deep end of like, I had this strategy that helped me feel some semblance of safety or some semblance of control or some semblance of being able to regulate my anxiety or lift myself up out of the collapse of depression. And now it's freaking gone. And okay, here are all these tools, and it's so overwhelming. And it's a place I love meeting people also. And why I appreciate somatic experiencing and what I'm hearing, about yoga and hypnotherapy, that this is a gradual, it's about helping the process slow down a little bit, because trauma by nature is overwhelming. Trauma by nature is urgency. Addiction by nature is intensity. So learning how to shift that and help the nervous system feel like it can be safe enough, even before we have the realization that we're safe enough. So I guess I was just thinking about that idea of like, sometimes it really is, we just kind of meet people in that moment of just letting go of something, and how to help hold that space with somebody is such a special, sacred ritual space, I think. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Yeah. Yeah, I want to also mention something in the somatic experiencing community that I'm sure won't be new to you folks here, that the addiction, whatever the addiction was, alcohol, cannabis, food, sex, it was the safety line. That was the only way. And I'll speak for myself, my nervous system that grew up in a highly activating environment for my whole developmental period, it was the only way I knew consistent attunement when I grabbed for that substance or that behavior. It was the only thing that kind of brought me aliveness when I felt nothing but suicidality and depression. And so a nervous system that's locked into, that's experienced this profound level of trauma or unsafety. And a lot of the people I work with, and I'm sure you all work with, is that not so much the trauma. Yes, the big, something big and dramatic happened, which is a really important place to meet folks. But I find for myself and for a lot of the folks I work with, it's that developmental trauma, what Francis Weller calls slow trauma, where it's not so much what did happen that was scary or overwhelming, although that's certainly real, but what didn't happen. What were the missing pieces in that person's development, whether it was to have a really present, attuned adult or a consistent sense of protection or co-regulation. So a lot of times that addiction was that source. And so when I'm working with folks, what we're really entering into, and I imagine you're all doing that too, is like it's the somatic reparenting process of really learning slowly, this slow journey and the different techniques and tools we do in somatic experiencing that creates this inner landscape of kindness, of that motherly attuned soft place to land, which of course I am for a long time. That's my job to be that until the other person can learn how to do that for themselves. So, I think I appreciate this relationship and framing of like, there's nothing wrong with the addiction. As Dr. Gabor Mate says, it's not the addiction that's the problem, it's the pain that's the problem. And again, how do we hold that pain now that we don't have that source of the addiction, of the substance, whatever that may be, and how do we hold it as a really compassionate, attuned, present mother, father, parent might? And when that was missing and early in life, the absence of that co-regulation, it's a real journey. I work with some people for years and I absolutely love it. And I'm my longest client, of course, but yeah, it's totally possible. It's totally doable. And it's such a special experience to participate in. I guess I'll pause there and see how that lands for everybody.
That was great. So, a description of a secure attachment, everyone's all about attachment theory these days. It's the experience that people are glad to be with me in every state. All my parts can be fully seen and fully known and fully loved. And therefore, I have all the resources I need for whatever happens to me. And therefore, everything will grow me and change me and make me a better person. So no matter what happens in life, I don't feel alone. I know I have the resources I need, and I can look forward to what I'm going to become at the end of this horrible thing. And in all of those, that's what you all seem to be describing is first, you as the practitioner become that person who helps the person, for both you and them, to be glad to be with them in all of their states. And then to realize there are resources. You create that. There is the possibility that I can have relationships that are sustaining. So when someone comes to you grieving a loss, if it's been a pet that was that source of comfort, if it's been a spouse that was that comfort, if it's been a parent that was that comfort, and now it's like Chelsea describes having the addiction ripped away from you. Mm-hmm. It's the very same thing. We're supposed to be, if you will, addicted to those safe, loving human beings who help us nurture and become and grow and heal and process and say, I got this. Yeah. Well, if your person is gone, it's that very same experience. We are detoxing from a human being or a pet or a job that we loved or our identity as an athlete, which has been taken away. All of these are the same, and these are all such lovely sounding ways going in there, finding all those lost little parts and bringing them into the light so that the grown-up can say, I got this.
Yeah.
And so it's really neat to listen to you all talk about doing the same thing in different ways and yet having the very same goal at
Yeah.
the end as that person who feels like all their parts can be seen and enjoyed, especially by themselves. So, Chelsea, let's just explore a little bit more. You wanted us to talk about grieving and addiction recovery, exploring the different unspoken grief of releasing a coping mechanism that once felt like our only source of love, safety, or belonging, and the somatic journey of recovering and tending to the parts of us that long to be known and cared for. So that you've already spoken to that, but let's talk about that more. I especially like recovering and tending to the parts of us that long to be known and cared for. And whether it's an addiction that has filled that and masked all that, or a person or a pet. When you get someone in early grief, their body just wants to know where they are and how to get them back. And we don't feel like we have any parts in here that can be seen without them seeing them. So talk more about that.
Yeah. Thanks, Barbara. Thanks for reflecting that back. What comes to mind when I see this posture, it's like shock, right? So much of what we're doing at the beginning of somatic work is just helping the person come out of the shock of it, the shock trauma, the I cannot believe that happened. And just through whatever it is, helping, yeah, find the ground. There's a ground, as Karen was saying, there's a chair holding you, there's feet on the earth, there's I'm here with you, and really just helping the system find a baseline. So a lot of, especially my clients I work with and students I work with in early sobriety, we're not working on parts yet. We're not working on, we're just like, oh my God, I'm here. And as Peter Levine, who created somatic experiencing, would couple that with, and I survived. I lived, I'm alive, I'm here, and starting to claim that vitality so folks can come out of this constant survival, right? Those fight, flight, freeze, fawn, fix, survival. So we're working with the shock physiology in so many ways, and that's so special. And then, yeah, those different parts that start to come up or the different emotions that start to come up. I think I referred to Francis Weller's text, the Wild Edge of Sorrow, a book I feel like I can read a paragraph of that book and just like, that's enough. But he talks about the 5 gates of grief. And the first gate is what we think of as grief, most folks, oh, we lost something, we lost a pet, we lost a loved one, we lost a job. I lost my beloved teacher, Janice. And just, the real loss of that. But there's these other gates of grief, 2 in particular I'm mentioning. And one of those gates is the parts of us that didn't know love, which includes, yeah, all of the emotions that never were welcomed, right? By that, oh, I'm so happy to be with all of you. And how that creates such a profound shame. What I see is the adults come in and their nervous system has no idea how to regulate itself. And there's this belief of, I am bad, I'm wrong. And of course, we couple that with addiction, which in our society has a stigma of you are bad, you are wrong. It has that already built in. So we're working with those parts of us that didn't know love and mothering them and welcoming into the fold. And then there's an other gate of grief that Francis talks about, which is, I think it's something like what we expected to happen or what was supposed to happen and what did not happen. So Barbara, as you're describing the village of welcoming faces and you come into the world to say, oh, honey, I'm so happy that you're here and I'm going to guide you through it and I'm going to protect you. And so often that goes missing or is inconsistent or is scary. And so we have these nervous systems where it's the survival nervous system is more oriented to signs of threat, danger, unsafe than it is to silence, peace, quiet. That feels unsafe. That's like, what the heck is that? My nervous system was like, chaos is home, chaos is family. And I had to really, so a lot of times when I'm working with folks, we're just learning how to feel safe in quiet, to feel safe with my feet are on the floor, and Karen are safe with Jeanine propping them up with a blanket and a pillow. Like, this is safety. It's okay. And I don't need to do anything to deserve or earn this goodness. I just get to have it because I exist. And so those two gates, the parts of ourselves that didn't know love and what was supposed to happen and what didn't happen, that's what I was referring to. And I'll pause there so you all can share your thoughts.
Yeah, so Jeanine, what are you thinking?
Chelsea, you brought up so many things that I'm like, blah, 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 where do I start? But it makes me think about when I first work with clients in grief or really anything, but I feel like when they are hanging on by their fingertips and they're just like, I don't know anything, how critical they are of themselves. And they're always like, I hope I'm not doing it wrong. Did I do it wrong? Did I do it wrong? You know, and it's like, there's no wrong way to do this. You know, this is your experience. And it is just initially just a lot of space holding. You know, I can help someone, I help like with sports performance. Let's get the blocks and obstacles out of the way. What's your fear? Let's knock out that fear. What's that thing? You know, we're going to move that out. So it's not just let's visualize the performance kind of thing. And so it's not even about getting into those blocks and obstacles. It's just slowing down and holding space and, you know, hey, what's come up for you today? You know, oh, I'm so mad someone said this to me. It's like, okay, so we'll work on that part today, you know, but there's not big specific grief blocks to move. That's weird, right? Because it's still part of our memory of who we are and all of the things. But that self-criticism about that they're looking for that love and questioning, did I do it right and did I make you happy? Yeah. Right. And it's like it's not about me, you know, like, yes, of course you did it right. There's no wrong way to do it, you know, and to see that slowly change for people, that languaging, that they're not quick to be so hard on themselves, which I think we're taught that as well. We're taught to kind of beat ourselves up quicker than anybody else ever could. And that's that stuff that we are taught at a very young age to do that. And sadly, we perfect it as adults. And that does get us in that spiral of the negative thoughts, negative thinking, reaching for things to make us feel happy or safe, because we don't know another way. And I think that's really what I love to teach people about, that when they're caught in that not knowing how to feel safe, and maybe they've reached for things that they're outgrowing, you know, they're like, oh, I should have known better. Like, how would you have known?
Yeah.
How would you have known? There's not a book and it says you have to follow these rules. And even if there was a book, like, how weird that we'd all have to follow the same book of rules of how to feel safe. But for that, it's creating their own new coping mechanisms, their own strategies, whatever you want to call it, of creating their own safety. Like, I can create an environment where they feel safe to explore that. But ultimately, we each have to create our own coping mechanisms to understand that we can start, like, it's not our fault. We're not in trouble. We didn't do wrong or bad, and that we can start to process and gently kind of take those layers down. Beautifully said, ladies. This is amazing.
I'm ready to jump in.
Please do.
So Karen.
So what I'm hearing from you, Jeanine and Chelsea, you mentioned it too, this, like, well, first off, that being the softening and being that attunement for our clients, and that the slowing down and this titrating, that this is a slow, and like, to admit, like Chelsea, like, I've had clients for years. That's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that it's not working. But I feel like one of the work of somatic trauma recovering is teaching our nervous system a new story, telling it, having an experience. So we can't just tell it, right? Giving our nervous system these new experiences over and over again, slowly, gently, over and over again. So we're learning those messages that it's okay to move slow. It's safe. It's safe to move slow. We don't have to be in a rush, but we have to actually experience that. To learn the new story that you're not wrong and it wasn't your fault. To learn that I can feel in my body and make choices. I have agency in my body over my life, which you certainly don't have in trauma. And so it's just kind of teaching the nervous system these new embodied stories. Like, so with the griever, someone in intense grief or any trauma really, I can feel this intense pain and not die. I mean, that's like, and I've been there. I imagine you all have too. Like, that's a true feeling. If I start to cry, I'll never stop. And if I feel this, I'll die. And so we need to, help them get to that place of safety in their body, create the comfort and support for their physical body, do it with mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, to get to that place of safety, just to feel that there can be both. Yes, there's great pain and sorrow, but if you're numb to that, if you're numb to the pain and the sorrow, then you're going to be numb to the goodness in life. And I think that's the message for survivors, is that you can live life again fully, like present here, not surviving, not frozen. That's how, we can do that pretty well, but that's not really living. And I think, what a privilege it is to work with someone who is like, I'm ready. I'm determined to transform the way I experience my life. And for me, and for anyone, right? If we change our lives, we change our legacies. That's what I wanted to add.
That's awesome. So the reason I chose the name of my channel, The Journey of Grief, making it sound like a long thing that's not going to be a magic wand overnight deal. And it's becoming us without them, because that is really the journey, whether I'm becoming myself without my addiction, without my job, without my spouse. There is an initial grief. There is nothing but the pain and the belief that if I can just lick these symptoms, if I can just sleep better again, if I can control my appetite again, if I can just manage these feelings, if I can just stop thinking about them so much. And people often don't understand that's like the frosting. And you're saying, if I can just scrape the frosting off this, it won't be a cake. And we know from our work that they literally have to make friends with the pain. They have to come to believe that they and that pain together can become someone who can experience meaning in life and believe there is much more to live for. And getting people from that, I would prefer to be dead right now, to, wow, I can hold the pain and the love in this place forever. And yet there's room for so much more. That's really, really a journey. And so, Jeanine, you wanted us to talk about more of those disenfranchised griefs, and just to get that said out loud so people know it's okay to grieve those. Chelsea talked about the grief and addiction. Unless you have recovered from an absolutely trashed life, you don't realize everything Jeanine's going to talk about as a disenfranchised loss addicts experience. They lose everything. They wreck everything. And a lot of people will say, no, I'm just grateful that I have my clean time now and I don't regret any of it. I'm like, of course. And yet, did you not lose some of that? And they'll want to say, Nope, everything I want, I got back. Okay. Just like, I didn't mind losing that job 3 months before retirement. No problem. So let's just talk more about those many unspoken griefs that people don't acknowledge or clear.
I mean, how much of those things become our identity? Our jobs become our identity. Maybe our friends, they're our identity. Maybe our partner is our identity because we're in this partnership. Or I think like imposter syndrome is a big, especially in work, people are like, oh, I'm one person at work, I'm another person at home, I work with people with that all the time, and they're conflicted of who they really are because they put on one show for work and then they go home and they're somebody else and it feels completely different, right? I feel like, again, we were taught to wear many hats, which is cool, but sometimes we're taught to wear a lot of weird, wonky hats that don't fit for a reason, and there's so much of that if you think you're the only one that's living that way and feeling that way, like that, the courage to say it out loud, that this is what I'm experiencing. These are my coping mechanisms. I feel out of control or whatever. I mean, it's so sad to say, I keep saying it over and over again, but it's kind of true. We really don't encourage people and teach them how to be courageous and empowered and feel hands on their hips, really proud of themselves for all the things, which is why we really just kind of make ourselves small. Talk about a level of quiet grief, right? People, at this stage of my life, I can look back and go, oh my God, I remember all that those years I spent being small, like, ugh. But I can acknowledge it now and say it out loud, right? I've explored a lot in my life, but we still have so many aspects of life that we truly feel we must be the only ones.
Yeah.
And who would understand, and how would they judge us if they knew? I mean,
Yeah.
I just think there's so many deep levels. And then of course, like Chelsea then sees the people that are dealing with the addictions, because somewhere they're grasping for something to either turn down that emotional charge. They're looking for something else to do it, to help numb it, turn it down, soften it, do something, just as long as maybe somebody else doesn't truly see me and know that part about me. I do have just such a different outlook on addiction because of that, because it is such a safety feature that people have created, and it just kind of got spread too heavy, right, across all the things. So it's not just like, well, I was just covering up for that one job thing or how I felt about myself. I mean, it covers up a lot of layers. I just I wish more people in the world knew that their experiences are absolutely individual and unique, because we all are. That's the cool part about us. But everybody experiences weird and wonky stuff, that we weren't taught to handle, thank goodness. I mean, we're taught enough to handle that we shouldn't have, but and so when you don't know how to handle those and you become small and stuff all that stuff down, like, it's okay, but you just can't live there for forever, right? And there are safer places. That sounds like we all create those places to like slowly kind of lighten your grip on how tight you're holding on to those things. I have a technique that I use. It's very simple, but it's just kind of putting all the things into something and then letting the image get weaker, right? It's hypnosis. It's, and the amount of people that don't want to let that image or thing go. And they're like, God, I tried so hard to hold on to it. How come? It was terrifying. Why would I give that to somebody? Or why would I, I had someone else was in somewhere in their minds and their cool subconscious. It's like someone's trying to take it and they're like, no, 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 I have to hold on to this. Like we hold on to things that aren't healthy for us. Silent grief, because we don't know another way. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with us. We literally just don't know another way.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's so true. So, Karen, let's talk about those sort of disenfranchised things that people stuff because they don't know it's okay to acknowledge it as a loss and have a little bit of a process of releasing it and grieving it. And like, for example, as women, like I'm 73. I remember being in high school and so you didn't take algebra until you were like a junior in high school back then. They take it in the 7th grade now, right? So I was a sophomore taking algebra. So there was another girl and the rest were guys that were juniors and seniors. And I remember deliberately acting dumb so I could get dates. And math was really easy for me, so I'd just get 100% on a test. And the teacher would say, so we're grading on a curve, and 2 of you got 100%, so the curve, blah, blah, blah. And they'd say, all right, who got the hundreds? No one ever looked at me. It never occurred to them that little sophomore girl was screwing up the curve. And I certainly didn't say, I did. I just like scribbled on my pad, like, don't look over here. I can't be smart. Being smart's not okay. So there's a lot of that for women, and we're trying really hard to come out of that. But all of the things we grieve are like that too. People can't see that. People can't know that. People can't find out about that. And society really reinforces that. Try weeping in the grocery store and see if people rush over and say, let me help you with your grief.
Yeah.
They say, here, you can go ahead of me. Please take that crying and get out of here.
Yeah. I guess what comes to mind is that gripping, that hanging on, that we have this notion that if we just, I think particularly as women and all the hats we wear, and being caregivers and just all of that, that if we just could just try harder, if we just could just keep gripping on, being strong, not crying, doing that, then that's what we're supposed to do. And society does, as someone said, we relate to people that way, that be strong and all of that. But for people to understand that they have learned this from a very young age, and that it's okay to feel. It's okay to that's why I recommended the book Try Softer by Andi Kobler. Try softer instead of harder, because that's what that message just right there. And again, and so that's a message for the brain. It's a message for the heart. It's a message for the body. What if you just tried softer instead of harder? And that it's okay to recognize that when we talk about disenfranchised grief, that your parents' lack of attunement to you, you're growing up with the lack of this, the lack of that. You had your clothes, you had your food, but the lack of that safety of that person. I'm so glad to see you and be with you. That is trauma. It's childhood trauma. It has been affecting you from probably since in utero, and that's something to grieve. That you didn't have that as a little one, and how it's shaped your nervous system and shaped your life and your experiences because of it. It takes a while to get somebody to be like that compassionate self-awareness, to have compassion, to have compassion for themselves and go, wow, yeah, That's really hard. That was hard for me. That is really sad. I'm to admit there's some sadness to that there's grief over that. So from whatever you asked, that's kind of where I went with it.
Yeah, so Chelsea, talk about anything you want. We started out with like the disenfranchised losses, the things that we don't know to formally grieve, but you can hear what everyone's talking about as we just progressively lose our self.
Yeah, it just sparks right away when you said the loss of self. Like, that's the ultimate grief. I got lost. Where am I? You know, and that's the recovering part. That's the recovery, to reclaim that. And Karen, I just so appreciate what you said about the moment when we have that embodied sense of like, oh my God, I didn't get that love or that attunement. I mean, I just remember walking around for so long, even well after I got sober, of like, my childhood wasn't that bad. You know, it's like the way that our minds can just get in our way, and the internalized patriarchy can get in our way, and just the ways, especially as women, that we're socialized to just be quiet and be pleasing.
Yes.
Quiet our truth and just take care of things and be pretty and be thin and be, you know, I don't know, Barbara, like you're saying. And like, when we get to come out of that survival state and be like, oh my God, like that happened to me. And I'm not defective. I was wounded.
Yeah.
And I don't have to beat myself up for that. I can have compassion for that. And I don't have to silence it anymore. I can speak to it with people that I trust and who I believe trust me. Is recovery. And, I always say, like, recovery isn't necessarily going back. I mean, sometimes we have to go back and reclaim those wounded parts. But recovery is getting to be who am I really when I get to tell my truth and I get to be in my wholeness and my messiness and the mystery of me. That's what I'm here for. Like, I'm so here for that. And that's why I always lead with, like, I'm a somatic therapist, but I'm also in recovery. Like, I just have always known no more anonymity. That doesn't work for me. It works for a lot of folks, and I respect that. And for me, I just knew it had to be out loud. And that's been imperfect. And it's been my truth, So it's just to be in a space where we're all telling the truth.
Yeah.
Like, that happened, that hurt. We can heal that. And we can move forward, and we can carry the medicine to our communities and to other people and to the planet that so desperately needs it. I'm here for it. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's so that internal message that we all end up with to some degree is, it's because I did it wrong. I wasn't good enough. I didn't get it right. So I'm the little girl whose mommy and daddy couldn't choose her, not because I wasn't good enough for my mom and dad to choose me. Not my parents were so broken, they never had a chance to be parents. Before they ever met me, we were all doomed. And so when you have a big loss, then you've got a whole body full of everything bad for 10 feet around me is because I'm not good enough and I didn't do it right. And then you have this big loss, this thing that gets ripped from your life. You cannot help but go to all those, this is because I didn't do it right. This is because I wasn't enough to stay alive for. Yeah, and it's really, so when people come and say, I would like you to help me with these symptoms. And I'm thinking, yeah, we're just going to go from the roof to the minus 43rd basement level. It's just going to be a blast. You're going to love it. But doing that gently and helping them integrate. And it sounds like we all do that, and we all believe that has to happen in your body, not just your attitude. Yeah. So it's so great to be with you guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I was going to say one of the things that I do enjoy kind of like when I was talking about people come in, they're like, my back hurts or thing. And, I don't know, I feel like I have just weight on my chest or super heavy, is when they have moments to experience a moment of regulation without really actively working at it. Because when you're in the state of hypnosis, I mean, you're in the healing state, right? And at the end of a session, they're like, that's so crazy. My back doesn't hurt anymore. It doesn't feel like something's sitting on my chest. I'm like, really?
Isn't that interesting?
You must have let something go, and then it clicks for them of how much they hold in their physical bodies when they're like, that's so weird. I'm like, oh yeah, I know. Yeah. Doesn't it feel better?
When I do the body stuff, we all come from a different direction, but we all get to the same place. So I was working with this young man who would frequently, I am absolutely certain, have done a small amount of meth before he came to his sessions. He just could not do life without it, right? And so the only thing I can't work with is if someone is drunk, because your brain just won't make any connections if it's sloshing around in there. And it's really tough if someone's doing opiates because they just want to nod off. But otherwise, people can be a little altered, because when we're in emotional chaos, we're a little altered anyway, right? I do the session with this guy, and at the end he goes, that is so weird. I have never felt this calm in my whole life, and I am high as a kite. Yeah, that's what the drugs are doing. But this is what your body's doing today. So for him to see the separation between tranquility and the meth is doing what it's doing, but I'm like so chill. That was kind of one of my coolest moments of noticing those are different things. So I always at the end of these videos ask you for your 1 minute wisdom. What is the one thing that you want people to carry out of this wonderful conversation that we've had? And let's start with Chelsea. What is your 1 minute wisdom?
I think my 1 minute wisdom for this minute, is if you've been struggling or are struggling with addiction, first of all, so many more people are who admit it, but the wisdom is there's nothing wrong with you. You're not defective. You're not broken. You have likely been very wounded. And this is not a life sentence. And your nervous system is plastic. It's resilient. We can restore a new, as Karen was saying, a new story, a new embodied story. And this isn't all there is. We can learn to be in the driver's seat of our life, and there's nothing wrong with you. And I have a lot of love for you, and there's a lot of love for you here, and there's a lot of healing to be had, and you are welcome. That would be my minute of wisdom in this moment.
Thank you. That is a wonderful invitation. How about Karen? What is your 1 minute of wisdom?
Mine would be starting with this quote: grief isn't the enemy of life, numbness is. Don't become numb to your suffering. And I can say that as a breast cancer survivor, as a recovering trauma survivor, and a continually, and someone honestly, like listening to this, I'm like, oh gosh, I still am not grieving fully. I'm still not grieving fully what I have to grieve. And I do a lot of this work, right? But the encouragement is that we can live fully when we can stay regulated enough, present enough to feel the pain and the sorrow in life. We have to find that regulation to stay with it long enough to not go into overwhelm, to see, teacher, see, you can do it. you can do it and not die. Because instead of feeling nothing or numbness at all, that is not life. When we're numb to pain, we're numb to sorrow. And we're numb to calm and joy and peace. So my wisdom and encouragement is with all of you is that there is relief, healing, and hope out there for you, for the listener. There's many ways to find this healing, but it's within something right here that you're listening to. There's something within this for your nervous system, for your wounds, that can be healed. You will not feel like this forever. That is a lie from a dysregulated nervous system, and it's a lie from the pit of hell. You will not feel this way forever. There is life, fully living, fully feeling for you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
thank you.
great wisdom.
Mhm.
Okay, Jeanine.
Oh, powerhouse ladies. Thank you. This has just been amazing having this chat. I feel like I've learned so much. I'm going to take away so much from this. And I think really what I'd like just really anybody to know is if you don't know what safe feels like in your body, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. And it's still okay to go and learn what that's like.
Yeah.
I can speak for myself, possibly the ladies on this panel, that we all had to learn that as well. We weren't born in the safe space and that we've just always been dancing above the clouds and feeling fantastic. Like, I think that's really what makes us able to be in the positions that we are and so passionate about helping people find that safety is because it resonates, right? We've all maybe experienced it at one time or another, and how to find that. So it's kind of like throwing the ladder back down. I would gladly give you the tools to help you feel this. So sometimes I think society, we think, oh, but those people have it like that. They have it so good. And we don't ever realize the challenges that somebody else has had. Like, my mental wellness is at an all-time high right now, ever in my whole entire life. But it hasn't always been this way. But I'm sure people do think like, God, look at her, but you don't know. And
Right.
so I think that it's important, right? That's why we're all here today. And that makes us all amazing at what we are. But letting people understand that there's growth opportunities for everybody. Unlearning and learning. Yeah. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
So my wisdom is kind of the same as all of you, that it is in finding our truest self and just really enjoying our truest self that makes us realize that digging through the pain to find ourselves and come back up into the sunshine is really, really worth it. And bizarrely, what's come to my mind is that scene in one of the Star Wars movies where Luke is getting his Jedi training and he has to go into this cave to face his greatest enemy. And he goes in and sees Darth Vader there. We've all expected Darth Vader to be his greatest enemy, right? But Darth Vader takes off his helmet and it's Luke. And in the end, it is me running from the parts of me that I can't face, that I don't think can be seen, don't think can be enjoyed or understood, that is ultimately keeping me from the very best version of me that there is. And so that would be my wisdom is, sadly, it is through the journey of growth and rediscovery that we find ourselves. We can avoid that. We can do it with all kinds of things, but the only thing that gets lost is us, and that's a tragedy. So thank you so much. I just have enjoyed
you.
much. It's so lovely to be among such wise people. And I'm going to thank you so much for coming and turn off the recording.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.